I lose. I lose. I lost. I lost the game. What do I do? What do I do? I played by the rules.
You're not struggling because you're poor. You're struggling because you live in the USA. You're struggling because prices have gone up tremendously, but the wages haven't.
We are struggling domestically here, economically, and we cannot afford to continuously give money to cause harm to the rest of the world when we're not addressing the harm that our people are experiencing here in this country.
My husband is 26 years old and he has a heart condition. And tomorrow he has an appointment that he is refusing to go to. And I'm doing my best to convince him. But the reason why is because we're still paying out of pocket, making payments on his last appointment that was almost a year ago.
I don't think I can do this anymore. This is probably 100 pounds of groceries. I don't know.
America was built on a promise that if you work hard, you'll get ahead, that anyone from anywhere can rise. But somewhere along the way, that promise changed, because now millions of Americans are working harder than ever and still can't move forward. They're not lazy, they're not reckless, they're just stuck in a country that feels impossible to leave and even harder to afford. Every month the bills come faster. Rent, insurance, groceries, gas, and every month people do the math and it doesn't add up. A full-time job isn't enough anymore. 2 jobs barely make a difference. People are working every day, yet living paycheck to paycheck. And the worst part? Most can't even imagine what life outside this grind would look like, because the system is designed that way.
You're not struggling because you're poor. You're struggling because you live in the USA. You're struggling because prices have gone up tremendously, but the wages haven't. You're struggling because your bills continue to increase, but your wages haven't. You're struggling because you have greedy, corrupt CEOs of companies that are continuing to record record profits but are refusing to pay their workers a livable wage. You're struggling because the country that prints money won't give that money back to its people. You're struggling because the country that is in $37 trillion and counting worth of debt somehow finds a way to give billions of dollars to fund new wars but won't find any money to fund the poor. You're struggling because this country is stealing 30 to 40% of your income, if not more. You're struggling because after this country wrongfully took 30 to 40% of your income, they're telling you to pay more during tax season. You're struggling because homes that used to cost $150,000 to $200,000 10 to 15 years ago are now costing $400,000 if not $500,000. You're struggling because those starter homes that used to be seen as affordable are now being bought by large corporations. You're struggling because rent was under $1,000 10 to 15 years ago is now costing almost $3,000 for a 1-bedroom. You're struggling because these greedy landlords continue to increase the rent. You're struggling because a $100 grocery bill 10 to 15 years ago will get you a huge haul, will now only get you a few things in 2025. You're struggling because the gas that you used to fill up your car used to be $1 and some change per gallon is now almost $4 a gallon. You're struggling because the cost of having a good time and living life has gone up tremendously. An airplane ticket used to be $200 round trip is now $400 one way. It used to cost under $1,000 to enjoy a vacation. Now it's costing almost $3,000 to $4,000 depending on where you go. You're struggling because you're forced to get a second job just to make ends meet as things continue to skyrocket. You're struggling because the American dream is no longer the American dream. It's the American nightmare.
Let's talk about why. In America, survival isn't just about money. It's about dependence. Your job gives you your income, but also your health care. Your address determines your school district, your credit score decides your rent, and your debt decides your future. That's not freedom. That's entrapment. So when people say, just move somewhere cheaper, it's not that simple. You can't move if your job's in one state and your doctor's in another. You can't start over if your student loans follow you everywhere you go. And you can't rebuild if one hospital visit could destroy your savings overnight. Many Americans feel like they're running on a treadmill. They're moving, but not getting anywhere. Working, but not winning. The average person isn't dreaming of luxury anymore. They're just dreaming of stability. A home they can keep. Food that doesn't cost a fortune. A weekend where they can rest without guilt. But even those dreams now feel expensive. And for those who do consider leaving America altogether, that path isn't easy either. Most countries require work visas, long applications, and proof of savings that few people actually have. Even if you manage to move, you're leaving behind family, community, and everything familiar. So people stay. They stay in jobs they hate, in cities they can't afford, in a system that punishes them for slowing down.
My husband is 26 years old and he has a heart condition. And tomorrow he has an appointment that he is refusing to go to. And I'm doing my best to convince him. But the reason why is because we're still paying out of pocket, making payments on his last appointment that was almost a year ago. And we can't afford another $2,400 bill. On top of that, our vehicles are all falling apart. My Chevy has a blown motor. Our little Ranger, which doesn't fit our family, is literally being held together with a shoelace and some zip ties. And our Jeep is also barely being held together. In fact, the passenger or the driver door doesn't close all the way, and we can't afford to fix that. We had to go in again today and use calculators to get groceries. And it's just, that's living in America right now. And it's so frustrating because it's election year, so you're seeing all of the tricks being pulled out of the sleeves to move focus off of where it should be. You're seeing things that at rallies that have never been a part of rallies and should never be a part of rallies. These are political rallies. Nobody should be shaking their ass on the screen. And the freaking monkeypox, and it's just, it's all a distraction. And it's like, if you want to know who you should vote for, look at your finances. Ronald Reagan said it. The truth. If you want to look at who you should vote for, whose house are you in right now? And how are you living? I don't know if we can keep living like this. It's getting to be too much. He shouldn't be missing incredibly important doctor's appointments that could literally save his life so that we can afford to live. It wasn't perfect when I was growing up, but I miss what we had. What happened to the American dream? This is like real life American freaking horror story.
The American dream used to mean upward mobility. Now it means survival. And survival has a price. It's the single mom skipping meals to pay rent, the graduate drowning in student loans, the worker with 2 jobs and no time to live, the retiree going back to work because their savings ran out. Everyone is fighting to stay afloat, and everyone is tired. But beneath all of this, there's something deeper. For generations, Americans were told that leaving means failure, that if you can't make it here, the problem is you. That mindset traps people more than money ever could. Because walking away from America isn't seen as starting over. It's seen as giving up. And no one wants to feel like they've given up on their country.
I don't think I can do this anymore. This is probably 100 pounds of groceries. I don't know. New York is just so fucking hard to live in. The stark contrast from being in the South for the Christmas season and then coming back here. Oh my God. Just hauling these groceries home, I just wanted to die. I don't want to be here anymore. The vibes are not good. Drones, whatever the fuck's happening. I'm not about it anymore. I don't want to live in New York anymore.
Then there's identity. America isn't just a place. It's an idea. It tells its people that they are part of something exceptional, that no matter how hard life gets, this is still the land of opportunity. But opportunity doesn't pay rent. Patriotism doesn't cover health care, and pride doesn't keep the lights on. So millions of Americans cling to a dream that no longer exists, and because it's the only thing they have left. Every few years, a new election promises change. A new leader, a new plan, a new hope. But the pattern never really breaks, because the problem isn't one person, it's the foundation itself.
In today's economy, do you think a couple that brings home $100,000 is enough to support a small family of like 3 to 4 people? I asked this because I made a post yesterday about how Americans are really struggling, and it was really sad and eye-opening to me to see the amount of people who said, I make 6 figures now, yet we're still struggling. And I don't mean is it enough to buy like luxuries. I just mean is $100,000 enough to live comfortably without having to live paycheck to paycheck. I remember like 12 years ago, my mom told me about this couple I knew who were making like a combined salary of $110,000. And at that point in my life, 20s, I'm thinking, what a dream, what a goal it was for me to be able to say one day that my husband and I were making like $110,000. And now here I am in 2023, and I'm like, it's not the dream life anymore. Like, if someone would have told me my husband and I would be making what we're making and still having to cut back on necessities, I would have been like, you have to be kidding me. Like, we didn't even go on a vacation this year because the last thing I'm going to do is put a vacation on a credit card, but we didn't have extra money to bring our kids on a vacation, and we both have good jobs. So if you think $100,000 is enough, I'm curious, what's your location? Do you not have children? Why do you think it's enough? Because I'm telling you, from yesterday's post on here, the comments say different, and the comments say that a majority of Americans are really, really struggling, and I mean hardworking Americans. So
When a nation's success depends on constant consumption, ordinary people become the fuel. You work, you spend, you borrow, you repeat. And every part of that cycle keeps you where you are. So why don't people leave? Because they can't. Not physically, not financially, not emotionally. They're tied to a system that's built on dependence and punished for trying to break free. Even those who do everything right, save money, get an education, follow the rules, often end up right where they started. Not because they failed, but because the system never wanted them to succeed in the first place. Still, amidst all this struggle, something remarkable remains: hope. Even when everything feels broken, Americans still believe tomorrow can be better. They keep trying, they keep building, they keep dreaming.
I lost. I lost the game. What do I do? What do I do? I played by the rules. Played by the rules and I lost. But I don't get to lose. If I choose to lose, I get punished. I can be charged with child endangerment for not getting help with my dangerous child. They can charge him, a cognitive 1 to 2-year-old, with domestic abuse. But can't help him. I can't call 911 unless my son's having seizures, then they'll help. I'll get a nice bill that I then have to fight to get paid. But if he's having behaviors, he's going to be charged. The symptoms are coming from the same issue. He's got hundreds of brain tumors. His brain doesn't function well. But I can't have a crisis. If I call a crisis line, they're not set up to care for someone who has uncontrolled seizures. If I try to get help for myself, they can't take my son because he can't talk. Where else am I supposed to go for help? I'm done. I give up, and I can't give up. I'm not allowed to lose the game without being punished. All these agencies, people, I don't know if you understand, they're set up to help. They don't help. They tell you no. Your son doesn't have the right condition to get help. He's too complex for everybody combined. But me, one person, without a job, with a broken body and a broken mind, I need to handle it, or else I'm gonna get charged. A life without any choice is no life at all. I have no agency at all. I'm at a complete loss. I'm at a complete loss.
And maybe that's what truly defines America. Not wealth, not politics, not success, but endurance. Because despite it all, millions of people wake up every day and keep going. They haven't given up, even when they probably should have. And that's both the tragedy and the beauty of life in the United States. That's why millions are struggling, but can't leave. Because no matter how bad it gets, they still believe somehow that the dream might return.